Now, I wanted to do this video because I wanted to give you guys some insight, since I really don't talk too much until lately this year about my experience with animals. And being that I've spent over 20 years with animals, working with animals, and within the last 3 to 4 years of spending every day training and developing some of my animals and with interspecies animals such as dogs, guinea pigs, birds, cats, chinchillas, and with the last 4 years with the new additions with guinea pigs and chinchillas, that not only have I discovered extra things I've discovered, considering I've worked with them every day for the past 3.5 years, 4 years, that just to give you not only that, is just to give you insight that I've also collected the knowledge of different breeders and different veterinarians around the area, not only around this area, around the United States. It was painstakingly to do. Some weren't really too thrilled to do it, considering wasn't in the same state, and I had to give them, vet records and stuff like that, and photocopies to make sure that, my animals were taken care of and stuff, to get the information that I wanted to get from them, so that I could provide not only the care for my animals myself, but to also myself a little bit more credibility whenever it comes to animal care, especially with all the years and stuff with different animals I've developed, not only from learning but also from experience for myself. Now, within the last 3.5 years, several hours a day, say 8 hours, 12 hours a day, I work with my animals, considering, well, I basically have a life outside my animals and stuff like that, because I don't have a close family. I haven't really spoke to my family in like 3 years, and even before that it was kind of spotty, over the few years. So instead of doing what other people would do at that, whenever you're not real close to your family and you fall out with your family or whatever, I've been working with my animals non-stop with an everyday basis. Not only that, I keep footage for myself for later. Maybe I'll show some of that footage eventually sometime on this channel, hopefully, if my channel still stays monetized throughout the different crafts and stuff I do over the years, that I would show some of that video footage, to where I pretty much just videotape them all day long to see what their habits are, what they're doing, and what their interactions are with different things. I just want to make clear that sometimes, depending on what kind of interracial species of animals you're trying to domesticate together, it only works if you start out with a young animal. Okay, especially with cats. Cats, and then depending on their diet, depending on, what animal groups or whatever, like say if you're on Facebook, you join an animal group, they'll have like terms and conditions of what you can and can't have, where what you talk about with like food-wise, because some animal groups say Bengal cats, they only allow you to talk about raw food, raw feeding, and canned cat food. They don't suggest you feed your cat dry cat food whatsoever. So even stuff like that, when people don't realize that, like say, okay, I have chinchillas and stuff like that, and I have cats, and I have one cat that has it's been trained since it was a kitten to pretty much be around other animals at all times. And the other cat, which is the Bengal, was already like 7 months old whenever I got him, so he was a lot harder. It took over a year to train him. Now the thing about him is, considering he's a Bengal, and traditionally Bengals eat raw food, which a lot of people would suggest, well, he wasn't brought up on that. The breeder that I got him from did not bring him up on raw food. So what I've discovered, considering out of all the cats I've ever owned in the last 10 years that were canned cat food trained, and with the dry food, is whenever you take away that ability, that instinctive ability for like the raw animal smell of like feeding them, and you do that early on, and you just give them, like alternatives, healthy alternatives, because I give mine canned cat food every day, and I also get the dry food. I'm not doing what everybody else does. I also, additional, I seek out the problems that my cats have, and they, get like urinary stuff if they have that or whatever, and treats and stuff like that. But what I've discovered is, if you take away that instinct, because whenever early on, if you're feeding that cat raw food already, it will develop that instinctive predatory thing where it will, want to eat, say, your hamster or your guinea pig or whatever, your chinchilla. But if you train them and you bring them up on stuff else, like, and it doesn't smell like a dead animal, such as your canned cat food or your dry food, and it's something totally processed or healthier alternative process, organic, then your cat his senses of that predatory instinct to want to be a predator towards his animal will be hindered. It will dull and demolish that, but it also depends on you and your training of introducing that animal to the other animals. Introducing that cat, using my method, I'm not going to explain too much in this video, I just want to keep this video short, but it's basically having you and the other animal in the same room with you, and you had to pet them at the same time, and then pretty much have both animals around you, and you sitting in the area where the cat usually is for his territory, because you're letting that cat know that, hey, this is your friend along with him, and to treat him the same, and you're both pet, because that when you're giving that cat the affection at the same time, it will help get that cat to understand that that cat is not prey, that cat is, friend along with the pack, with the family. It also works better, in my advantage, to have also dogs. Considering that I have other dogs and with my cats, it's been a lot easier because they see the surroundings and everything, and they get more used to it that way. I don't suggest anybody would train their cat the way I do, considering a lot of people don't take time to spend with their animals as much as I do, considering that I work from home and I spend most of my time with my animals, even if I'm busy or something like that, or I pretty much spend every day with them besides anything that I'm doing, whatever, but I also make sure I have a lot of time for them. And a lot of people, they just touch and go with their animal whenever they feel like it, and especially if they're young, animal, or if they're just newly introduced in your home and you don't get the proper training, that cat is always going to have some kind of issues and whatnot. Same thing with any other animal, dogs included, chinchillas and stuff like that, to teach them, what their limits are and what they can and can't do. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of insight on that, about with my experience with animals, and especially with dogs. I've pretty much had Pomeranians most of my life. I'm 29 years old, and my first dogs, I think, were like part golden retriever mix. It was a white golden retriever, but it was a mutt, just wasn't nothing special. And then I think before that was a mix of something. It was like a pepper mix of something, some kind of dog. I can't remember. It's been so long. But basically, I pretty much had animal books all my life, going through animal books of what information we had at the time in the 90s. So I just wanted to give you a brief of my experience with animals. And if my caution to you is to be careful of those little pet groups online. Like, say if you're a Facebook user, be careful of the smaller groups. The smaller groups may be run by people that don't know jack of what they're talking about, because it happens way too often, especially when you notice that the group doesn't grow at all within months or a year. It's because of those type of admins and stuff that are all giving wrong information and playing some kind of elitist game in their head, trying to think that everything they say is right, whenever it's been exposed to be not right, or half-truths. Anyways, take care.